While German National Socialism, with its vision of women's place in society, does not appear especially emancipatory, it remains true that many women managed, during this period, to achieve professional independence and sometimes even notoriety. While the names of filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl, aviator Hannah Reitsch, who piloted the last plane to take off from Berlin on the night of April 28th to 29th, 1945, architect Gerty Trost, who redesigned Munich's Königsplatz, and feminist and nuclear physicist Clara Döppel are fairly well known, the same is much less true of Beate Uhse. Beate Kostlin, her maiden name, was born in 1919 in Wargenau, East Prussia, today Malinovka in Russia's Kaliningrad Oblast, a further illustration of the territorial upheavals that struck Eastern Europe. Her father was a well-off farmer, and her mother was one of only 5 women doctors in Germany at the time. From the age of 8, fascinated by the story of Icarus that her brother had told her, she fashioned herself wings out of chicken feathers and leapt from the farmhouse roof. She got off with nothing worse than numerous bruises and a few sprains. In 1932, she was enrolled at a school with an alternative pedagogy, the Schule am Meer, School by the Sea, located on the island of Juist in East Frisia. Its founder, Martin Lucerk, was a hard man to categorize, a teacher before the First World War in a free school community tied to libertarian ideals. He was close to revolutionary circles during the unrest of 1918 to 1919, notably to the council communist Karl Korsch, before distancing himself from them by proposing a practical socialism, praktischer Sozialismus, that emphasized in a post-revolutionary society the need to transcend social classes through intellectual work and to establish an elitist meritocracy based on examination success. In 1925, heavily influenced by the Wandervogel movement born at the end of the 19th century, he founded his Schule am Meer. He borrowed a number of features from that student movement with an education built around sport, singing and music, to which he added theater. While keeping well clear of the nascent National Socialism, Martin Lucerk increasingly held views shaped by Völkisch ideology and imagery. Much of the school's frame of reference rested on a Germanic Viking ideal and Norse myths. He agreed to enroll Jewish students at his school, but did not oppose the creation within the establishment itself, and well before the Nazis seized power, of a Hitler Youth chapter that came to include nearly 20% of its 150 students. The school was closed in 1934 after Martin Lucerka refused to have it absorbed into the new regime's educational system, which did not stop him from receiving, the following year, a literary prize handed to him personally by Goebbels for his adventure novel Hasko. Already in 1934, he had intervened to get the young Beate Köstlin admitted to another school practicing alternative pedagogy, but one integrated into the new school system, the Odenwaldschule. In 1937, returning to a passion from her childhood, she took her first flying lesson. She earned her pilot's license on her 18th birthday and went on to continue her training at the aeronautical firm Bücker Flugzeugbau as a test pilot, under the guidance of the instructor who would become her husband in 1939, Hans-Jürgen Uhse. He was the brother of Bodo Uhse, who, after taking part in the Kapp Putsch at age 16 in 1920, joined the Nazi Party. Active on its left wing, he became one of the Strasser brothers' protégés. Opposed to Hitler's line, which he considered too conservative capitalist, he grew close to Bruno von Salomon, the elder brother of the author of The Outlaws, an activist in the revolutionary wing of the peasant movement. The two men broke with their respective organizations in 1930 and joined the German Communist Party. It was probably with his brother's trajectory in mind that Ernst von Salomon wrote The City in 1932. Alongside her work for Bücker Flugzeugbau, Beate Uhse also worked in film, becoming history's first female stunt pilot. She appeared notably in the propaganda films D388, 1939, and Achtung, Feind hört mit, 1940. From 1942 onward, she was mobilized as a ferry pilot, delivering aircraft from the factory to their operational bases on the Eastern Front. Her skill allowed her to evade Soviet fighters on several occasions. She reached the rank of captain in the Luftwaffe in 1944 at age 26. The same year her husband, a fighter pilot, was killed in a mid-air collision between two aircraft. In 1945, as the noose tightened around the Reich's capital, she piloted the last plane to manage to take off from the Berlin-Gatow military airfield in the Spandau district. On April 25th, her small Siebel FH-104, carrying her 2-year-old son, his nanny, and 4 other people, raced down a runway pockmarked by bombing and managed to take off under Soviet artillery fire. She eventually landed behind British lines. She would later learn that her parents had been massacred by Red Army soldiers during the conquest of East Prussia. Widowed with a small child, now unemployed, Beate Uhse watched with a certain detachment as her homeland lay dying, buried beneath the rubble of its own cities. This Germany year zero of 1945 was heavily feminized. Of Berlin's 2,700,000 inhabitants, nearly 2 million were women. Between the dead and prisoners of war, more than 16 million men were missing. It is estimated that during this period and in the months that followed, more than 2 million German women were subjected to repeated rapes, and not only in the territories conquered by the Soviets. Many of these women of the rubble, Trümmerfrauen, widowed or married to prisoners of war, were forced into prostitution to survive. Others tried to find a protector among the occupying troops. This was notably the case of the anonymous narrator of A Woman in Berlin, Eine Frau in Berlin. It is now known that this was the true story of Martha Hillers, who, after being raped several times, agreed to become the private preserve of a high-ranking Red Army officer, while also finding in it a way to get food. For many of these women, not becoming pregnant was thus both an economic and a moral imperative. Beate Uhse, remembering the lessons her doctor mother had given her about sexuality and contraception, had the idea of publishing her mother's advice on small printed leaflets sold on the street or by mail order. The success was immediate, and the homemade sheets soon gave way to more elaborate brochures. At the same time, she expanded her range to cover matters of hygiene and sexual health, as well as couples' well-being, a discreet way of referring to eroticism. In 1962, given the growing success of her publications and products, she had a customer file of 5 million names. She opened in downtown Flensburg, between a bakery and a butcher's shop, a type of business then unique of its kind, the first sex shop. It offered books and brochures as well as lingerie and condoms, and even marriage manuals for young couples. This specialty store for marital hygiene, later copied by others, caused a great stir when it opened in Germany and went on to achieve real success. By the 1990s, the Beate Uhse AG company operated some 30 sex shops and nearly 25 adult cinemas with a budget of 100 million marks. In 2001, Beate Uhse died in Switzerland following her company's stock market listing in 1999. Which came with one last scandal, since the share certificates issued on the Frankfurt Exchange featured nude pin-up girls, making them the most original stock documents ever issued. Under the guise of sexual liberation, it is striking to consider that sexuality as a mass consumer product turns out to be, in the end, the natural offspring of the forced sex imposed on German women by the occupying troops.